You're very welcome back to the show. Now, my next guest was the first Irish doctor to offer vasectomies here. He was also the clinician that challenged the legislation that required a prescription to buy a condom in 1983. Now, in 1990, he was the victim of a gun attack that happened while he was working in his surgery. This event forms the basis of a new short documentary premiering in the Virgin Media Dublin International Film Festival called The Vasectomy Doctor. Before we meet him, let's take a quick look at the trailer.
A condom comes in a pack like that.
Treating the citizens of this country like children. The vase is about the size of a piece of spaghetti, and you deal with it, cut it in two, and you drop it back in again. Irish doctor sterilises 160 men in Dublin clinic. There's nothing particularly great about me. I just happened to be around at a time when there were things to be done.
Dr. Andrew Rynne, you're very welcome to the show. Ireland's first vasectomy doctor. There's a title. Did you ever think you'd have when you were in medical school?
I don't really want to be defined that way, but there we go.
There's way more to you, obviously, than that.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was looking at that clip there, and we see Gay Byrne on the Late Late Show with the condom.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in a pharmacy in secondary school and going to college, and they didn't even sell condoms back then because it was very much a taboo thing, and that's 20 years ago. Yeah. We've come a long way since then, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, Ireland is a totally different country now than what it was 25 years ago. In my view, a better country, more liberated and less priest-ridden and so on. Yeah. But when I came back from Canada, I knew that I was going to have a fight on my hands, and it was something I was up for. You know, and I joined the Irish Family Planning Association. They made me their chairman. And then, of course, I took on Mr. Hawley's Irish Solution to the Irish Problem. Yeah. But I was doing vasectomies in the background all the time, much against the wishes of the Catholic Church at the time.
Then that was a huge fight that you had on your hands, really, then, wasn't it? Whatever about the legislation, the Catholic Church had a stranglehold over Irish society then. How did you decide to combat that?
Well, personally, I didn't mind.
Yeah.
I won't say I didn't care, but I didn't mind. I wasn't going to be kowtowing to the Catholic Church because I felt that vasectomy was a useful operation. Men needed it and wanted it, and we were providing it. Yeah. A priest came into my house, the parish priest. I thought he was coming in to see me about some medical problem he had, and he starts giving out to me for doing vasectomies. So I told him, look, if I want some spiritual guidance from you, Father, you'd be the first to know about it. In the meantime, I would, think you should respect my views just as I do yours. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go into his house and tell him to watch his weight and look at his blood pressure and look at his cholesterol. Yeah. You just don't do that, guy. No. I mean, these are private matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And before you were the head of the IFPA, they used to bring doctors from England in to do this procedure because doctors here were afraid to perform a vasectomy.
It was a lady doctor, actually. She was an ophthalmic surgeon, of all things. She was used to operating on eyes. So she was a bit out of her territory there, but anyway.
A few feet in the wrong direction, I would say, yes.
She was good at it, I'm not saying she wasn't. But I was very happy to take over.
When you first started doing these operations, what has changed? Has men's attitude to it changed? Because, OK, but forget about the kind of religious aspect of things. I suppose when it comes to their sexual health and contraceptive and stuff like that, men have been a bit reticent to come forward and get themselves sorted out. Have you seen an attitude change over the last number of years?
Very, very much so. When I started to do vasectomies in 1974, they'd practically be wearing false wigs and stuff so as to wouldn't be recognised, and they'd be asking us, will there be somebody there who might know me, kind of thing.
Really?
I know, yeah. Of course, they'd come up from Kerry and Cork and everywhere else because we were the only people in Ireland doing them at the time. But now I can go into a room and a fellow will come up to me in front of everybody else and say, oh, jeez, I remember you 20 years ago, you did a vasectomy. He's delighted with himself.
Yeah,
he tells everybody.
And before, you actually had to, if there was a married couple, you had to get consent from the wife and the husband. You couldn't just walk in, and that's changed now.
Yeah, well, I kind of changed that because
You changed a lot of things, to be fair.
Well, I always thought a man's fertility was a man's fertility.
Correct, the same as a woman.
Yes, the same as a woman. And he should not have to ask anybody else for permission to have his fertility removed. Yeah. And there's been no precedents in law anyway about it, so that's been dropped.
I suppose when it came to, I can't believe people actually had to have a prescription for a condom as well.
Well, I mean, that was Charlie Hoy's idea of. Somebody asked him, "Is this a solution?" He said, "Well, it's the Irish solution to the Irish problem."
Yeah.
Which we've done a lot of.
Yeah, but it wasn't really a problem. The problem was that they couldn't face up to the church and take the thing on.
That's what it was, yeah.
So it took you.
It was a political problem rather than anything else. So anyway, he put them on a doctor's prescription, and I, among 400 or 500 other doctors across the country, said we are not going to write prescriptions for condoms. We're just not going to do that. We didn't go to medical school to write prescriptions for toothpaste or soap or any other toiletry you can think of. This is nonsense. In any case, a man shouldn't have to go and present himself to a doctor just because he wants to look after the size of his family. He's trying to be responsible. Yeah. And here we are putting barriers in his way. He's going to have to pay the doctor a fee. He's going to have to pay the chemist a fee. You know, these are going to be the most expensive condoms in the world, and we're not doing it.
Yeah. Sure.
And then I started to sell them against provision.
Good.
It wasn't the most legal thing for you to be doing, was it?
Well, I knew this was going to get me into all sorts of trouble. But you know, I knew that I was going to end up in court, and it was £500 fine at the time. Yeah. And the judge was so annoyed with me for making use of what he called his court. I thought the court belonged to the people, but apparently it belonged to the judge. And he said, "What's the maximum fine we can give Dr. Rynne?" And the solicitor, state solicitor, who had already asked the fellow I sold the condoms to, he said, "What did you want the condoms for?" And there was an absolute silence because, I mean, the fellow couldn't have, "What do you want the condoms? What do you think he wants the condoms for?"
A balloon.
A balloon, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Fill them with water or something. But anyway, he gave me a fine for £500. And I said, "I'm not going to pay that." He said, "Well, you know, if I say any more, I'd be in contempt of court." You know?
Yeah.
So I really pushed it as far as I could.
Yeah. And then eventually.
Well, then Barry Desmond came in. He was an ex-minister of health a couple of months later, and he put them into vending machines, which is where they should have been in the first place.
Now, your career in your life, whatever about the hijinks in the courts you've had and facing against the government, personally, you've had a fairly traumatic incident as well in 1990, which is kind of the basis of this documentary. Tell us what happened to you.
Well, when I was doing a vasectomy, I was minding my own business in my own surgery down in Clane, and this fella bursts into the door and with a gun up to his shoulder, and I wasn't expecting him. My secretary had directed him down to the room I was in, and I didn't know who he was or what he wanted. And he said, "You destroyed my life 8 years ago. 8 years ago. I'm going to take yours now." And he pointed the gun right between my eyes. And I know something about guns. And he was wearing gloves as well, which you're not supposed to be wearing gloves when you're handling a gun. It was so incredibly dangerous. And eventually he lowered the gun and took an aim at my genitalia and pulled the trigger and shot me, missing my genitalia.
Thanks.
Thanks be to God for that.
It was a woeful shot.
Thank God.
And I hit the floor and I got up. And there was blood all over the place, and the poor fellow was having a vasectomy, got up and put on his pants, and that was the last.
There was someone on the table having a vasectomy at the time.
There was, yeah. And there was a joke in Phoenix magazine a couple of days later with a cartoon of a fellow having a vasectomy and a doctor leaning over him, and then a fellow pointing a gun, and the patient on the table says, "I thought I was going to have this under local anaesthetic."
All jokes aside, where did the shot hit you? The buckshot?
It went into my hip joint.
Yeah.
And I had a 3-hour operation in St. James's Hospital to get it taken out of there. And I have that bullet in a little container on my dresser at home to this day.
But what was the outcome of that? I mean, he shot you. Did you run? How did you get out?
He went out into a field across from the surgery and he held himself up there. And he threatened to shoot himself and anybody else who came near him. But the Gardaí just held on. It was a 3-hour siege and eventually he gave himself up.
Yeah.
Having demanded a pint of Guinness in the meantime, so Irish. And the Gardaí were, I was up in the hospital trying to sort out this bullet of me, and your man was drinking a pint of Guinness out in the middle of the field.
My God, I'm not laughing at.
So bizarre.
But
I know we've laughed at it since, you know, and we did laugh at it, and we still laugh at it.
Yeah.
There's no point in crying about it.
And he obviously his issue was a mental issue rather than anything else. He
he claimed that. They put him into Dundrum for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I went to see him a few times because the psychiatrist said, "You better come in and see this fellow because he doesn't think you're a real person, you know." So I wanted to present myself as a real person and not somebody to be taking pot shots at.
Yeah.
And he was very, very regretful and very remorseful and wrote to me several times, and I knew he wasn't going to come back and do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least pretty certain he wasn't.
Yeah.
Nor did he.
But now, when you look at this, I suppose the taboos that we still have in Ireland, we'd like to think they're all lifted. They're not. I mean, we've protesters outside hospitals this very day because of reproductive rights. There's still a stigma surrounding sexual dysfunction. There's still people ashamed to admit if they have any problems or issues. And that's something you feel passionately about, isn't it? Trying to get people more open and talking about these things.
Well, I don't see anybody face-to-face anymore, but I do online consultation in the area of...
Medical advice for you.
Yes.
Why did you... This is the reason you set this up, isn't it?
Yes, the medicaladviceforyou.com, and it's mainly to do with sexual dysfunction. But sexual dysfunction is a difficult subject, and I don't think that people should be talking about it in pubs and so on. It's a very private matter. But I think the internet lends itself very well to that kind of thing. Yeah. Because you can be anonymous. You don't have to go in and talk to somebody. Face to face. And you can be quite frank, and you need to be frank about sexual dysfunction. Men and women, mostly men. And you need to be honest about it and face up. And even talking about it can improve things. Rather than bottling it up. You know?
Well, that's true, yeah.
So doing it online, I think it's one of the really good uses for online. Yeah,
because I suppose, as you said, it does lend itself to these things, but there's so much misinformation out there. Dr. Google possibly is the worst thing you could ever have. Well, I mean, you must have people coming to you all the time going, oh my God, well, the internet said this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you Google premature ejaculation, for instance, that's ejaculating too early. Yeah. You Google that, and your first 6-10 pages are all just rubbish, nonsense. Absolute rubbish, and it's all sold so very convincingly that if you take these tablets or you do this or you do that, you're going to be grand. And of course, you're not going to be grand. Nope. It's a bit more complicated than that. So a lot of men, you know, by the time they come around to talking to me, they've been led astray. You know?
And it can be psychological and physical. It's a very nuanced thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, erectile dysfunction, of course, is the other common thing. And that brings in physiology and psychology and the whole ball of wax, and relationship difficulties and all sorts of stuff.
And I suppose we're used to women talking about these quite openly all the time. Men, it's still quite difficult for them to do, and that's why this website is a very good idea.
Yes. Well, I don't think that women like talking about not being able to reach orgasm, for instance. And I don't blame them. I think these are private matters. But at least the help is there if somebody actually genuinely does need it. Absolutely.
Now, when we look at the documentary, it's airing this Saturday, the 23rd, on the Dublin International Film Festival. Are you going to be there for the premiere of it?
I'll be there.
The star on the red carpet?
I couldn't not be there. No, it's not that. It's just I want to give Paul a bit of, encouragement. He's done a very good job, and it's just, I suppose it is a bit flattering, but it's fun as well.
But it's an absolutely fascinating story, and such a slice of Irish life throughout the ages. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Good to meet Margaret.
Best of luck in the documentary premiere when you're famous all around the place now after all of this. Thank you so much for joining us. Now time for a quick break. When we come back, one woman asks if she's old-fashioned for not allowing her daughter's partner to sleep under her roof. We discuss that and more after the break.